Okay, and then all right, we are here live with this very special mini ceremonial book reading, Somatophobia. I'm excited to share with you Meet the Curse of Eve during your maiden cycle. And before I dive into the book reading, I am going to share with you that your womb is the gateway to divinity. And anything that you hear that triggers you, I'll ask you to just pause and feel. Where do I feel that trigger in my body? If you feel any emotions from past traumas or wounds, fear, or programs show up, just check in. Where do I feel all of that arising from? Where is the pain of that trauma, that wound, that fear, that program, that whatever it is? Where is the pain of it stored in my body? And then where is the story of it stored in my mind? These curses are not about you being a victim to them. No one cursed you and put the curse of Eve on you. Let's just clear that up right now, shall we? These curses, really, the curse of Eve and the curse of Adam, they really come about from one, what we inherited from our bloodline, all of our lineages, beliefs, and all the power that they gave to the sexual programming and everything that manifested from the lack of rite of passages, as well as the sexual programming that created the mind-body split, or the lack of divine union internally as well as externally in our relationships. So these curses are a result of that from our lineage, all the power they gave away, we inherited that. And then throughout our life, everywhere that template, all the power given, all the belief systems, all the programs, all the traumas, all the wounds, that vibrational frequency is stored in our body. And we will create experiences that are in alignment with that vibrational frequency of those unhealed traumas that's stored in our body. Until we choose to heal those stuck frequencies in our body, we will no longer create those experiences that are in alignment. So further sexual trauma, sexual abuse, sexual pain, shame, blah, 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 you name it. One second, it says, can someone comment, am I still here? Is my connection lost? Okay, I think I'm back now. So we're going to journey through the 4 cycles of life that we all go through. For women, we're beginning with the maiden season, and that's from, really it begins at conception and all the way through 25 years of age. So I'll share with you a little bit about these 4 cycles of life from Spiral 1 and Portal 3 of my book, Somatophobia. So let's go on a journey through the 4 cycles of a woman's life and witness how this curse of Eve plays out. Just as everything in nature moves through the 4 cycles of life, our bodies also move through the 4 cycles each with a rite of passage that not only gives you clues about the theme of this new phase of life for you, but also has the potential to free you from the constraints of the curse. When you understand these 4 cycles, you'll come to the realization that your body's wisdom has been doing its very best to wake you up to remember the truth. Native American tribes used a medicine wheel to track and understand the cycles of life. The 4 sections of the medicine wheel, similar to 4 equally sized pie slices, represent the 4 directions: east, south, west, and north. The 4 elements: air, fire, water, and earth. The 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. The 4 times of the day: dawn, noon, dusk, and midnight. And the 4 stages of life: childhood, adolescence, adult, and elder. Each of these 4 seasons or stages is a key component in the wholeness of life on earth. The circle represents the connectedness of everything in life, as well as the ongoing cycle and balance of the physical and spiritual, birth and death, sunrise and sunset, seen and unseen, light and dark, hot and cold, expanding and contracting, and the yin and yang. This knowledge was vital for them, but it has become forgotten knowledge for us. So now let's meet cycle 1, the Maiden cycle. This is the first season of your life, and it is filled with innocence, playfulness, purity, carefreeness, spontaneity, enthusiasm, optimism, and raw sexual energy. However, the shadow aspect of this season is largely based on the programming you buy into, as well as the abuse, the wounds, the traumas, the limitations, the fears, and the shame that you experience throughout your lifetime. This season invites you to explore your creativity and your desires. The initial implanting of the curse of Eve began during conception, your soul's very first rite of passage. Was your mother engaged in a conscious and sacred act, loving herself unconditionally while creating you? Or did she struggle with her sexuality and self-love? Did your father honor and worship your mother's womb, consciously impregnating her with his seed? Or were you created from a big unconscious bang, such as with the wham bam, thank you ma'am, kind of sex? And then it continued during the 9 months that you were in your mother's womb. Was she connected to her womb? Did she revere her womb as sacred or shameful? What was the extent of her sexual programming? What were her thoughts, feelings, and emotions about her womb, as well as during any sexual encounter she experienced with you in her womb? During these 9 months, you, as the fetus, were busy downloading your mother's sexual programming, which created the foundation of this curse. That's not to mention that you also received the programming from your grandmother, while the egg that was once you was inside of your mother's fetus. And then the programming from your lineage that had been passed down generation after generation. Imprinting is a survival mechanism. We observe our mother and grandmother while in their wombs, and then we continue to observe our environment up to 7 to 10 years old. What you observed as a reaction to a stimulus becomes learned behavior. You filed away the reaction as the appropriate way to behave. And when you encountered a similar or related stimulus, you pulled out this reaction from your mental filing cabinet. It becomes your default reaction without you ever questioning if this reaction serves you or if this reaction is in alignment with your higher self. And then this programming continues. Unless your mother experienced an orgasmic birth in the upright position, in a tub, a pool, or a body of water, free of an epidural, spinal block, or numbing medication, your grand entrance to this world was not one that validates birth as pleasurable, nor pleasure as your birthright. And if your birth was anywhere on the traumatic scale, ranging from what is considered a normal hospital birth, to an intervention with forceps, to a full-blown cesarean, this further validates that the birthing process is one of pain and instills a lack of safety from day one. Allow me to remind you that the curse of Eve is basically all the sexual programming that says anything involving your womb is a source of pain, shame, and sin. So if you haven't already been imprinted enough before exiting your mother's womb, the first person to touch your physical body further imprints you with all of their beliefs, programs, armoring, and emotional state of being, such as fear, shame, anger. If the OBGYN or midwife who delivered you was sexually abused and held contraction and trauma in his or her sacrum, as their hand supported your sacrum, your brain received an instant download sent upwards from your sacrum through your nervous system. Your brain interpreted it and sent encrypted messages back to your sacrum, telling it to contract in order to keep you safe. And then for some young girls, female circumcision and genital mutilation followed, reinforcing that the womb is a painful, painful place. Whatever you do, do not drop deep into your womb. For others, this pain may have not been consciously felt, but rather an unconscious pain that was programmed into your psyche with all those things that your mother would tell you about your quote-unquote private parts, or one of the other many names for the vagina that parents use with their children. This pain is now overlaying all of the initial imprints you received from your grandmother, mother, and the first person to touch you after birth. Let's just keep on adding on the pain, shall we? So if you ever got caught touching those private parts, you were shamed and you internalized that shame as yours. Masturbating or self-pleasuring was something that you could only do in secret, either in the bathtub or in bed under the sheets. So just like spring is the time for planting seeds, the majority of this maiden cycle of your life is spent learning, watching, analyzing, collecting information, and programming your subconscious mind with belief systems, religious dogma, and societal constructs that you witness in your environment. The foundation of your programming was solidified with the pre-made template that you inherited from your ancestors and the seeds that your parents harvested, creating you. So then fast forwarding a little bit and puberty hits. And if you were anything like me, you were most likely confused as to what's happening in your body. Your breasts are growing, pubic hair is peeking through, and your face is covered in acne, all of which bring embarrassment, body image issues, self-judgment, competition, or feelings of envy among your girlfriends, and even more shame. And then your first menstrual bleed arrives, and your mother hands you a toxic menstrual pad or tampon. Did you know that tampons contain dioxins? And according to the Environmental Protection Agency, there is no safe level of exposure to dioxin, yet it's in tampons. They also contain chlorine, non-organic cotton with pesticides, fragrance, parabens, and plastics that are absorbed by your womb. Yet no ingredients have ever been listed on the box of tampons, as tampons and pads are labeled as medical products, making them exempt from listing their ingredients. Tampons also absorb the sacred life force in your menstrual blood, aka your Shakti, your inner healer. They prevent the inherent release of all the transmuted energies and emotions from your womb during your monthly death and rebirth cycle. Your menstrual cycle is your monthly cleansing cycle of all that you have transmuted that month. Traumas, wounds, fear, programming, this curse of Eve. Tampons also dry up your womb's natural lubrication, desensitize the walls of your yoni, and increase the amount of blood you release as your womb is trying to flush out the toxins from the tampon. And if you were lucky, your mother may have prepared you physically and or mentally for the monthly visit from Auntie Flo. But did she empower you to be grateful for this monthly visitor and to treat her with the highest honor, respect, and rituals, celebrating her, instead of with resentment, shame, and a misunderstanding of your womb's miraculous powers? The way these hormonal changes are dealt with in our present culture imprints us about what it means to be a cyclical, sexual, and fertile human being. Many of us were told that we had entered a phase in our lives where we would be dictated by the curse, something that is inconvenient, painful, and completely outside of our control. Unless we take that magic pill, it's called birth control. And then we arrived to sex education, which surely did not empower you. The majority of American health textbooks often neglect to label the clitoris in their female anatomy diagrams. In one study, 29% of college-aged women were unable to identify the clitoris on an anatomy diagram. In 2016, 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞, a UK gynecological cancer charity, asked 1,000 women to identify their anatomy in a medical illustration, and the results were shocking. 44% of women were unable to identify their vagina, and 60% were unable to label their vulva, their very own sacred body parts. And rites of passage, well, what are those? They are devoid in today's society. Rites of passage at the coming of age were how our ancient ancestors were greeted into womanhood and everything that womanhood encompasses. Mothers, grandmothers, and aunts passed on the knowledge of the magnificence, wonder, and beauty of what it means to be a woman. In many traditional cultures, this initiation into adulthood was reveled with a ceremony of huge significance. The Apache Native Americans held ceremonies for days with the whole tribe present. In the 𝐬𝐮𝐞 tribe, at the first sign of menses, an elder woman carries the maiden far out to sea and leaves her to swim back to the land completely naked. And when she miraculously makes it to shore, everyone cheers, and she is now officially a woman. The final rite of passage in this cycle is marked by your first sexual experience, which by this point in your life, the sexual programming is running amok. You may remember some of this programming running amok. Good girls don't like sex. Sex is taboo. Sex is a sin. Sex is dirty. Sex is only to pleasure men. Virginity is a prize to be won. Losing your virginity better be with someone you love. And if you enjoy sex, then you're a slut. And sex leads to either an STD or pregnancy. This virginity programming has girls kicking off their sexual journey in fear, believing that sex is done to them, and at a deficit, feeling like they have lost or given up something. Originally, the word virgin signified a woman who had cleansed her womb of traumas and wounds, including the inherited ones from her lineage and past lives, through sacred womb rituals and ceremonies practiced by womb priestesses. Basically, her womb was pure and energetically and spiritually awakened. She had returned her temple to its original state of innocence. Hence, why they say Virgin Mary, or the Greek virgin goddess Athena. They were sovereign women who were able to use their Shakti, their divine feminine, to birth sacred divine union with their Shiva, their inner divine masculine. These women were revered as sacred whores, spelled H-O-R-S. What we now call whore, W-H-O-R-E, which is spoken in a derogatory way to imply that a woman who is not a virgin is not clean nor pure. She's dirty, she's sinful. In the Semitic languages of the Middle East, whore meant cave, womb, or sacred mound. The ancient Greek word horesis implied womb enlightenment, specifically between a woman and man in divine sexual union. Horesis was also mentioned in the Bible as an oracular ecstatic vision, achieved how? You guessed it, through a pure virgin womb. The cosmic womb was also once known as the great whore, or harlot, a womb of light. Society's recommendation of virginity has not only instilled sexual shame, but it has also spawned a market for artificial hymens to restore virginity, and vaginal reconstructive surgery to alter the appearance of the vulva, which has all been influenced by the porn industry. Did you know that there is no medical way to tell if someone is a virgin or not? This includes a broken hymen, because as hymens usually become worn down throughout adolescence and can be torn by everything from jumping on a trampoline to horseback riding to simply playing sports. Some women are not born with a hymen at all. Yet despite the fact that more than half of women do not bleed the first time they have penetrative sex, blood on the sheets has remained a signifier of losing one's virginity throughout history. His story. More disturbingly, girls around the world are often subject to degrading, invasive virginity tests to ensure what? Their purity. It is time for society to reprogram the constructs of virginity to a celebratory and sacred sexual debut. But that would require modern day rites of passage and sacred education, not just on sex, but on the energetic exchange that occurs during sex on the physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual level. A proper rite of passage should remind girls that when they open their legs, they open their hearts. Yet the same is not true for boys. And this is because there is an electromagnetic rod that flows between the womb and the heart. In women, the polarity is positive at the heart, negative at the womb. Whereas in men, the polarity is positive at the womb, negative at the heart. Energy flows from positive to negative, indicating that when a woman opens her heart, Energy flows from her heart down to her womb, intermingling an array of emotions and love into the sex act. Whereas for a man, he can open his womb without ever flowing this energy up to his heart, allowing him to have sex without emotions, love, or even the need to know the name of the womb that he's penetrating. However, it is through the repetitive opening, the sacred opening of his womb, and the flowing of this energy up to his heart that opens his heart to emotions and unconditional love. One of the gifts that I saved for Kumar was my womb and my heart. After my high school relationship ended, I dedicated myself to college and fitness competitions. Relationships were just not my thing, but sexual pleasure was. I did sex very much like a man, no emotions involved. And the moment the fling smelled of emotions, I was out. And this allowed me to meet Kumar without any baggage, without any heartbreak, and without any feelings of being victimized in any past relationships. And knowing what I know now, the sacred exchange of your womb and heart should be reserved for a conscious, sacred relationship. This is the real definition of virginity, but they hijacked it and distorted it to fit their narratives and keep as many plugged into the sexual programming as possible. Now let's dive deep into the Disney programming. Disney translates as dis, the opposite of, deprive of, excluded from, show disrespect to, as well as the god of the underworld, Pluto. It is a Latin prefix meaning apart, away, such as disperse, disassociate, dissolve, or having a private, negative, or reversing force, such as disability, disarm, disconnect, dishearten, dishonest, dislike, and disobey. Knee, a fabric of twine or thread woven into meshes and designed to entrap or catch. A snare, any device for catching and holding. So now let's put these two definitions together and we get dis-knee. Secret conditioning and programming woven together to entrap the minds of children. Disney, which when I was growing up was the cornerstone of childhood, with cartoons, movies, sing-alongs, toys, and theme parks. And Disney is also one of the biggest perpetrators of sexual programming. Young girls are sold the princess conditioning that implies if they have X attributes, Prince Charming will come riding in on his white horse, sweep them off their feet, and live happily ever after. It's the ultimate fairy tale, right? Sounds cute, sounds playful. I mean, what young girl doesn't want to grow up as a princess? But below the surface, there are sinister seeds being planted into the subconscious minds of girls through the interjection of trauma, gender conformities, subliminal sexual innuendos, and pedestaling. A child's brain is incredibly impressionable during the first 7 to 10 years of life because the brain is in a theta state, the most optimal state to be programmed. Put simply, this sexual programming, this conditioning, equates beauty to worth. You'll only be loved and saved by Prince Charming if you're beautiful, if fill in the blank, whatever you have in that blank due to your belief systems and your programming. This warps a woman's sense of self-worth and initiates her never-ending journey of perfecting her asset, be it her body, her hair, her makeup, her boobs, her ass, etc. That she uses to get what she wants. And we see this on Instagram all the time. We're seeing this Disney programming leaking into the influencer realm as well. It's all about our asset. We have to make it better because that equates to our worth. The fundamental asset of a princess is her sexuality, with which she lures in Prince Charming. The glamorized fake woman is idolized, and these seeds are rooted in material gain and a luxurious lifestyle. Unfortunately, this conditioning leads to helplessness, perfectionism, standardized beauty, hypersexualization, dehumanization, and cultural appropriation. Not to mention all the side effects such as anxiety, depression, not enoughness, low self-esteem, body image issues, eating disorders, and a lack of confidence. It doesn't stop with Disney though. These themes continue to play out on social media with the influencer craze, in Hollywood, and in consumerism. Nearly every product sold to you is aimed at boosting your perceived worth. Needless to say, this breeds insecurities and feelings of having to keep up and never being enough, never doing enough. This template drives women to spend their entire lives trying to create the perfect fairy tale, when it's the furthest thing from reality. Meanwhile, their masculine counterparts are spending their lives trying to create the porn tale, which is also the furthest thing from reality. Sacred souls, how are you all feeling? What are you all feeling? Any questions? You can enter it in the chat box now if you have any. This Curse of Eve is a collection of all of the programming, belief systems, things we witnessed and observed literally from the time we were conceived up until the age of 7 or 10, and then later in life when we have that first sexual experience. It is rooted in our sexual programming. We're not able to be present. We don't feel our body, depending on all the traumas that we have created and experienced in life. If they are unhealed, they are in our womb. And when we engage in that sacred energetic exchange, we are sharing those traumas and wounds with our partner, as well as receiving the energetic frequency of those traumas and wounds from our partner's womb. This programming is one of the deepest programs that we have to meet and feel in our body in order to unplug from it, in order to take back our power, in order to deprogram and pull back all the ties, all the connections, all the attachments that keep shame, guilt, the programming that your body, pleasure, breathing is a sin, is shameful, that doesn't allow you to show up and honor and revere your womb as sacred. Because as I said at the beginning, your womb is your gateway to divinity. So in liberating yourself from the sexual programming, guess what? You liberate more Shakti, more of your inner healer. And this month in my weekly womb kriya ceremonies, we are going to be diving deep into the Curse of Eve during May in the Maiden cycle, June in the Mother cycle, and then July in the Maga and Crone cycle, completing all 4 cycles and deprogramming all the belief systems, everything we inherited from our lineage. So if you desire to transmute all these stuck energies connected to this Curse of Eve and the sexual programming and where it's stored in your fascia and in your womb, your first womb kriya ceremony is free. It is my gift to you to feel and remember how to awaken your inner healer so that you can heal yourself and liberate yourself. Ceremonies are every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and then the third Wednesday of the month as well at 10 a.m. Eastern. All you need is cannabis and non-slip resistance bands. So check the link in my bio or the link in the description to join your first womb kriya ceremony. And of course, if you enjoyed Somatophobia, you can find Somatophobia on Amazon. The link is also in my bio. And please join a full somatic ceremonial book reading, which the next one is Saturday, May 25th from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on Zoom. So let me check and see if there are any questions. How are you all feeling? Did you feel any triggers, any memories, any fears, anything show up? And if not, you all know where to find me. Thank you so much for being here and joining me in introducing you to the Curse of Eve during the Maiden cycle. I will share the date for the next live video where I will be sharing the Curse of Eve during the Mother cycle. Have a blessed day. Thank you all. I love you.